We're here with Representative Matt Lehman. You're from the 67th district?
Something like, yes, that is correct.
Which covers Newport, Bellevue, Dayton area primarily?
And Southgate, Highland Heights,
And
Wilder,
Okay.
part of Cold Spring, part of Fort Thomas,
Yeah, a little bit of
and
everything.
Woodlawn.
What are some of your key priorities you're working on right now for your district?
And three big topics I've been working on. One is the pension benefits for first responders and hazardous duty, so firefighters, state troopers, and so on. It's been a real problem for retention in particular. We're losing a lot of people after the first few years. And so there's something called Tier 3 benefits that hazardous duty officers used to get until 2014, until that was reversed, and trying to work on somehow restoring that or finding better retention programs and the benefits for those people. Second is actually looking at the tax and distribution from slot machines, or what we call them Kentucky historic horse racing machines that we see in Florence and Boone County and Newport in my district and Campbell County. We have the lowest excise tax in the country on slot machines and those types of gaming. We have, as far as I know, we're the only state that has no local distribution of the tax. So when you compare like Vevey and Lawrenceburg in Indiana, that casino revenue that's really improved their waterfronts and those things, we don't, Florence and Newport do not benefit from these facilities. And third, looking at specifically the riverport authorities in Kentucky. We have a statute that limits riverport authorities, such as the Northern Kentucky Port Authority, to river-oriented development. I think there's some potential looking at other states and the way they regulate their port authorities to really allow for more development, but also do so under a really appropriate governance structure.
If you were talking to your constituents right now, what would some of those priorities you just mentioned, what would those tangibly mean to them?
I'm very clear. Look, I look out for what I call just the regular people, the working men and women of Kentucky, my district specifically. Look, the way Frankfort works, if you're well connected, you got expensive lobbyists. If you're a big corporation, you're very well represented in Frankfort. A lot of just the everyday people are not. When you talk about tangibly some of my priorities, I point out, look, I have two neighbors in Newport who are Cincinnati firefighters. They don't work on the Kentucky side of the river. That's, tangibly, we are losing people who could be in our hazardous duty positions in Kentucky because of better benefits in other states like Ohio, Indiana. Things like what I talked about, the historic horse racing or the slot machine taxes. And again, the money that's being generated, there was a $500 million bet in the Newport gaming facility last year. This is not small money, and virtually none of that goes to Newport or to Campbell County for the local citizens. My constituents are dealing with traffic and everything else around that facility. So.
Well, Matt, we're going to put a link to your campaign website here, and I appreciate you coming.
Yeah.